Hello, lovely listeners. So today I want to talk about one of the big things that comes up all the time with our clients, comes up all the time, or came up all the time in my own life, comes up all the time in conversations, time. I'm talking about control. So one of the big things that I hear from people is, I just want to feel in control of my time. I just want to feel in control, full stop. And so I would just love for you to take a minute and pause and think about, if you were to give it a scale from 1 to 10, how in control do you feel generally? And how in control do you feel of your time? Now, I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and what came out of this conversation was something that made me think of you all immediately and wanted to create this podcast and share it with you, which is, we were talking about this feeling of being in control and certain things that we cannot control, and making that mean that we have no control, right? Life happens. There are certain things we cannot control. We started this new year here in the UK full of snow. I mean, thick snow. To be fair, my 2.5-year-old did love it. It was very cute. And also the roads, the smaller roads, the side streets were super icy. It didn't feel super safe to be driving around. That was not a fun experience. So there were things that I could not control. I could not control the weather. If any of you know how to do this, please DM me. But I absolutely cannot control the weather. And it's the same with our time, right? Life happens. I've shared before on this podcast. This goes back a little bit, but when I was pregnant, I was put on bed rest. That was out of my control. So there are certain things that will always be out of our control. My kid over the holidays, how many times do you think, bless him, he was poorly and we had to pick him up and spend the day with him, and as soon as he got home, he was chirpy and happy as everything, which is obviously what we want, but also we send him to nursery for a few days a week so that he can play and we can laugh. So again, it's like, I cannot control when my son is going to get sick. I cannot. I wish I could. I'm sure every parent wishes they could. I cannot. We did spend Christmas Day in A&E. He was fine, but we just needed to see a doctor. And so that was like, him being sick that day and needing to see a doctor was not in my control. I was calling 111 and getting the recommendation to go to A&E, while me following through on that was within my control. So I did actually have some control. But at first I didn't think so, right? You think, well, I've got to go to the doctor. I've got to go to A&E on Christmas Day. I've got to. But actually, control is not a zero-sum game. I should say control is not binary. And that's what I'd missed. I thought I either have control or I don't have control. Now, some of you are hearing this and saying, yeah, there's things we can control and things we can't, which I understand. Maybe it's more obvious to you, but this clicked in my brain so clearly I had to get on, create a podcast episode and share it with you, that there are things we can control. There are things we cannot control always in our lives that will impact our time. So if we need to be able to control everything and control the weather and control when our kids get sick and control when the internet goes in or out and control all of these external things, we are going to feel powerless, because there are always going to be things that we cannot control. But when we're busy saying, I don't have control because I cannot control the weather, or when my kid gets sick, or when the power goes out, when we're missing the fact that we have control. We have control over how we respond. We have control over the decisions we make. We have control over what we do, what we think, what we make it mean. Now, the reason this is so important is because you will show up differently to your life. You will make different decisions when you feel powerful, and you will not feel powerful if you do not give yourself permission to be in control, even as life is crumbling around you, and to be in control even as things happen that you do not want to happen. You are not meant to control everything, right? Again, at the beginning, I asked you to give that scale of 1 to 10. That was very much on purpose, because that's how control is. We have this scale, and it's not 0 to 10 out of 10, because we never have, is it helpful to ever say we have 0 control, or ever say we have 10 out of 10 control, right? In situations happen and we have control, not over the situation, but over our response to it. So to go back to the example of my little one getting sick for the second time, finishing his antibiotic and us getting told to take him to the hospital. I could not control his temperature. I wish I could, but I could control what we did about it. I could control prioritizing going to the doctor. I could control, listening to the recommendations from the doctor of what we do and don't do. Those are the things that I could control. So telling myself I don't have any control and feeling powerless is very different to focusing on where I have control and letting go of where I don't have control. Now, again, some of you might be like, yeah, I always knew this, but I did share this with a friend and they said to me, I always got the concept, right? I knew in theory, like, we can't choose what happens, but we can choose how we respond to it. But the way that I explained it to them, they said something clicked in their brain. I shared how something clicked in my brain. And so I just wanted, for the few of you that are listening that want to feel more in control, to give you permission to notice where you have control, even when you don't have control, right? When you have control and don't have control, it's not binary. It's not either or, it's and. You have control and you don't have control. And both are important. When we take over responsibility and we take control over everything and life happens and things happen, we will punish ourselves, right? And the opposite, when we give all of our control away and we don't have any control, we will stay stuck for longer than we need to. So I wanted to share this with you to invite you to own your power and also let go of the responsibility that might be burdening you. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone, leave a review, let us know what you thought. Thank you so much for being here and listening. Bye.